Hey guys, before I dive into the main focus of this video, I wanted to give you a quick update on some ongoing projects. This is the Predicta tandem cabinet that I had been refinishing. If you recall, it had suffered some damage. I stripped it down, did some repairs, some clamping, some steaming, and so on. Well, here's where we're currently at. After the grain filler, I put on a couple light coats of red mahogany toner on this and about 4 on this. The original was slightly darker on the trim, plus the trim was lighter wood than the veneer anyway, so I think that's a very close approximation to the original color. I then put on a couple coats of clear gloss, waited a few days, sanded it, and a couple more coats. I want to do another couple more rounds of that, but I need to wait until the weather gets warmer. It's been crazy this winter. We've been jumping between 70 degrees and 30 degrees every few days, so maybe I'll have to wait 4 months to put on some more coats, and maybe I'll be able to do it next week. I really don't know at this point. This is the stuff I've been using for the clear coat. Same stuff I used on that p3o 623. I really like this stuff. In the past, I've talked about how much I like Deft Gloss, because it's a nitrocellulose lacquer. Well, so is this, and I like this even better. It might not be the lacquer itself, though. It might simply be because I've been doing this at cooler temps. I've read online that if you spray lacquer at cooler temperatures, it has more time to flow out and you can get a smoother surface. Too cold and you're going to have other issues. Too hot, and what happens is the stuff starts drying so fast the droplets don't have time to melt together. But so far, regardless of what mechanism this lacquer is curing by, I'm really happy with the results. Now, here's a look at something that some of you may remember from quite a while ago. It's the Admiral 16R11, which is my friend's set, the same guy that has all the bug eye sets. And you might have thought that this had left my place quite some time ago. Well, not so much. One, he's tight on space as well, so I don't think he minds leaving it here while I store it for him. But also, if you recall, the door was damaged on it. The corner was broken off. And I spent some time doing a little bit of work with epoxy and some brass paint, and it still looks kind of half-assed, but if I just get another hinge pin on that end, I would be serviceable. However, a couple weeks ago, somebody on eBay was selling a whole bunch of parts. They must have parted out one of these sets. Maybe the Bakelite cabinet got damaged. I don't know. But here we go. The entire control panel with an intact door. So forget about repairing this. I'm just going to use this. And I've also got a full set of knobs. So if any of these are nicer than the knobs currently on this set or my other Admirals, I'll go with those. Similarly, I've got an entire spare glass, or a piece of safety plastic rather. That's this. So I'll check out, I think I have 3 sets that use the same size. I'll compare all of them to this, and this one's better, because this one is scratch free. So if any of them have any slight scratches or imperfections, I can swap them out for that. Here's that p3o 623 I mentioned a moment ago. I was also able to do a little sanding on this and do another round of clear on it. I think one more pass on this and that'll be it. Again, that Mohawk lacquer is working really nice. After that decal, I buried it in some lacquer and sanded it so it's almost completely buried within the lacquer. A little bit more light sanding, a couple more coats of lacquer. And you won't see the edge of the lacquer film at all. And here's a blonde Motorola VT71. I think I mentioned briefly in an earlier video. Got this got this for what I thought was a steal on eBay at only $50. I was the only bidder because the cabinet looked to be in really good condition, and it had the picture tube. Unfortunately, the picture tube was broken during shipping, but I'm still happy to have it. Because the chassis is nice too, and I dug up a set of knobs for it, and this is all the original finish. I just sanded it lightly and put on some fresh coats of lacquer to seal it in, so no refinishing on this set for a change. I'll just touch up that one little ding there and it should be good to go. So what do we do about this broken or missing picture tube? Well, I got lucky. A guy in Video Karma contacted me and said he had one, and that just arrived a couple days ago, so he claims it sounds really good. So I'll be able to proceed with this project at some point, but not until I finish working on all of my predictors. Now this is the main focus of this video. This is my p3o Predicta Siesta. I did a couple videos on this a while ago, and at the end of them, the set was functioning. Well, alas, that didn't last for long. 1 or 2 days later, it stopped working. It just didn't turn on. No smoke, no flash, no nothing. I hit the power switch and just nothing. At the time, I was thinking maybe there's a break in the AC interlock on the back. Maybe it's not, not making good contact and there's just no juice getting through. Or maybe the fusible resistor burned out. However, now that I've worked on a few of these, I know how susceptible this power switch is to crapping out, so that could very well be the problem as well. So I thought it'd be fun to pop this open because I have never pulled the chassis on this set. I took the back off briefly and replaced the tube, but that's it. I've never actually taken a closer look at this chassis. I believe it's unrestored. Maybe a few caps have been clipped out from the top and replaced, but I think it might be 100% original in there. So let's take a look and find out. Alright, I've got it up on the workbench. I have opened up a similar set to Predicta Princess, so I kind of remember how it goes. I need to take off all these screws around the perimeter, and I'll get the back off. And then there are some screws underneath that hold the chassis in. I'll have to pull the knobs off the front of the set and disconnect an umbilical to the CRT to totally extract the chassis. Unlike the Holiday and the Tandem sets I've been working on, this set does have a power transformer. So all the tubes are wired in parallel, they're all 6-volt tubes. And before I go to the length of extracting the whole chassis, let's see if we can narrow down where the power loss is coming from. If the fuse resistor is blown, that should be really obvious. If that looks okay, well, I can use my ohm meter to see if the power switch might be bad. Oops. There we go. Alright, now this is all packed in there so tight. Well, I can't see much. The fusible resistor, I believe, is down inside there. But before I bother with that, I'm going to pull out a cheater cord and see if we get continuity. Yeah, do have continuity. Only about 2 ohms for the power switch. Well, I had my suspicions that it might have been that interlock, because the old power cord's a little ratty looking, so maybe this will be as simple as I just needed to get a better plug or a better cheater cord. So I'm going to try turning this set around and plugging it in. Alright, here we go. Yeah, pilot light came on. Well, this could be a really short video. I do still want to pull the chassis out there because I never have before, and I still, well, and I also want to see the condition of the
toughest dudes on the planet.
Huh. No vertical. That's the problem I had when I first got this set. Not only that, but the vertical, oh, it's slowly growing. Could have a leaky cap that's kind of reforming, but it also seems like the vertical is somewhat modulated by the audio, which is also a great indication of a leaky cap. Oh, there we go. Should we have full height? Having a bad vertical is a really common problem on these Predicta sets, I've been told. I don't have an antenna hooked up, so still clear some issues. I'm going to hook up a stronger signal source and see what we get. I've hooked up an over-the-air digital analog converter to channel 3. Let's see if this is any better. See, that over-the-air test station I was using, they have a strong sound carrier but a weak video carrier, and I have trouble picking it up on a lot of sets. See, like now, the sound is fine, but the video is just non-existent. Because really it's more of an FM radio station right at the edge. It's like 87.7 megahertz. So you can usually pick it up both on a TV and an FM receiver. Alright. Switch the horizontals off. Alright. So all this time it's just been a bad interlock on the back.
Well, I like playing tag too, but
It also seems we got some vertical issue.
Thank goodness they're playing in the dome.
Linearity's not good. It's squished at the top, and I don't think we're full height. Not full width either, for that matter. Alright, well, those controls are made in the back. There's 3 thumb wheel controls in the back that you can easily adjust, but the other controls for width and height linearity, I think I gotta get out a screwdriver. So, what was wrong with this set? Why weren't we getting any power with the original power cord? Well, let's check it out. So, here's the interconnect. And I'll stick one side of my ohm meter into that, and then put the other on the cord. And there we go, continuity on one side. Let's try the other side. Switch the interconnect, switch on the plug. And now continuity. And now we do have continuity. And now we don't. So, no doubt, somewhere inside of this cord, from years of fluxing, there's a break. It's not obvious from the outside, but clearly, there we go. Pull a little torque on it, no conductivity. So, you know, can't trust these old cords. I mean, to me this looked fine. I was like, hey, got an original cord, still in great condition. Nope. The copper strands inside must have broken from stress over the years. Well, I made the adjustments as the best I could, but I just can't get it quite right. I've got a gap here at the bottom, so likely the vertical centering's off. You can adjust that if I open up the back of the CRT housing. But the linearity isn't quite right, and I got the controls at the maximum extent. So I suspect that I've got some leaky caps or out-of-tolerance resistors. Possibly the tube, but if you recall in the long ago earlier segment, I did put some new tubes in the vertical section, so it seems unlikely. So I think the next thing to do is to pop this chassis out, and let's see what we've got. Now, as memory serves, the key to taking these apart is to take the picture tube off the top first. There's a Phillips screw back here, you take that out, and here's one of the plugs for it, down here, and I think if you reach in to the chassis, you can disconnect the other 1 or 2 wires. Then you can just pull this whole thing off, which takes away half of the weight, and you've got this nice little metal box you can work on. Much more manageable. That flashlight. Let's see what else we've got. Okay, and you gotta disconnect this guy down here. Alright, I think there's one single wire for the video signal. Oh, and a high voltage lead too. There's the video signal wire. So there's one wire that runs over to a little terminal on the circuit board. That guy. And on the lead left is a high voltage. Alright, well, first I'm going to get these guys out of the way. Some little wire clips you have to bend. Wires out of this. Let's see. There's that. This clip here, and get those wires out. This wire out. So there's one left. It's high voltage. Pop this cover open. Figure it out from there. It's kind of tricky on the Holiday tandem sets. You actually have to pop the high voltage cage open and take out the high voltage rectifier tube to undo the cable. I think what I'll do is I will consult the service manual and see what they have to say. Refer to the Sam's service info, and on the back page they do have disassembly instructions, and just like the Holiday set and tandem sets, you do have to pull out the rectifier tube, and then you can pull out the high voltage lead. So we have the 2 wires here, that's the filament for the rectifier tube, and that wire is the high voltage lead. And there we go. Now I can thread that out to the top, and then I can finally pull off the whole CRT. Alright, that should do it. All the cables are loose and free. Now with that screw out of the way, I should be able to rotate this. There it is. Ooh, voila. Well, I got this off. I'll clean that out, put some new grease on it too so it rotates more freely. With the CRT out of the way, I was able to tip the cabinet on its side, and before I did that I protected the workbench with a towel. And now we we can see about getting the chassis out. I disconnected this plug, which apparently is for the clock AC power supply. Removed 2 nuts that hold on these 3 controls up here. I reached inside and disconnected the speaker, and I think that should be it. So now I can start taking off screws that hold the chassis on. Just 2 on this side and 1, 2, 3, 5 down here, because that's where the power transformer is, so there's more weight down here. A different size. Actually, all 3 of these. Oh, I see. Okay, now the service info makes sense. It said to disconnect the tuner from the chassis and then remove the chassis, then remove the tuner. Now I see what they mean. The tuner is a separate assembly, and it's mounted with 3 1/4-inch nuts, and the chassis is attached independently with 4 larger bolts. So I'll continue to loosen up the 4 main chassis bolts and pull the chassis out, then take the tuner out. Well, that was weird. These nuts, or bolts, whatever you want to call them, sheet metal screws, have washers on them. Well, that last one I just took out, the washer disintegrated as I took it out. I have to replace that, I suppose. There's one left. I'm going to tip this back down. See if it comes out now. Well, it's certainly loose. A little metal strap that was used to hook onto some of the CRT cables is in the way. Got it out. Okay, we're caught up on. Okay, that's the clock AC interlock they were talking about. A couple wires going right to the AC here and running up to the clock. I gotta get in there and see how those are connected. Alright, I finally got things figured out. So this is the tuner connector. I can pop that apart. Now for the clock. So there's the AC power running back to the clock, and those leads are soldered right onto that motor. And they're soldered onto this. So I'm thinking, well, what the heck am I supposed to disconnect? And I realized you leave it connected to the clock. What you disconnect it from is the TV chassis. So that's what this plug is for. And then you undo these 2, and this whole interlock plate stays with the clock while you remove the chassis. Now that leaves one thing, which is that. And that is the power, volume, and contrast control. Now it's going through this thick cable here, which runs down right into the chassis. So it seems to me that has to be unmounted in order to get the chassis out. It looks like there are a couple of those cheapo speed nuts or whatever they call them, one there and one there. And if I take those 2 out, I believe this whole assembly will come out. Alright, finally I've got the chassis out and we can inspect it in more detail. Here's that last control cluster that I had to remove. So just like in the holiday set and the tandem set, we got the push on, push off control and then contrast and volume. But apparently this one's still alright. So these sets are a bit different. So for one, we got a power transformer right here. So all these tubes, they're all 6-volt tubes, they're all wired in parallel, so if one goes out, the whole set doesn't go dead. Another thing that's odd is this main circuit board is very different. If we check this out side by side, you can see in the tandem set that it's very regular. All the parts are vertical or horizontal. But check out this board. The parts are at all kinds of crazy angles. And the circuit traces are all just kind of going all over the place. And I believe even these K networks are all subtly different. So, only some of my experiences from working on this will be transferable to this. Sure, it's the same board, same wiring points and all that, but I'll have to figure out different components to use in the K network. But I don't think there's as many of, well, maybe I shouldn't say there's not as many of them. You know, one here, I think this one is the same. One of these, the vertical integrator, I believe is the same. That's the one that has that goofy capacitor kind of wrapped around a resistor. But as far as this guy, and this guy, and this guy, I think they're unique to the Princess and the Siesta sets. Here's one of the filter caps, and here's the other one. I think that's it. I think there's just the two. Here's the IF section. I think this is more or less identical to the other Predicta sets. That's a filter choke. Should be some silicon diodes, yep, buried down in there. So yeah, this set does look to be very much original. Just cleaning up some components here to see if there's any evidence. Any parts. Okay, here's one cap that's been replaced. They clipped the old component out from the top and did a pigtail and wrapped it around and soldered it on. That is the only replaced component that I see. This Siesta set and the very similar Princess set came out a little bit later. The original sets in the Predicta line were the Holiday and the Tandem sets, which have the series wired sets and the germanium rectifiers and so on. So this is a bit of a more refined, superior design. I'm not so surprised that it's still running on pretty much all the original components. But even so, I'm sure it could benefit from a little bit of a recap. So now we're left with the problem that you have with all the Predicta sets. I could clip out some of these caps from the top and do the same as with this guy, make little pigtails and solder them on. Same with resistors that are out of tolerance. Or, now that I've gone to the trouble to take it all out, do I undo all the wire wrap terminals, pull out the whole board, and fully recap it, so on. Well, I think you know what I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm going to pull the whole board out and do a full recap. But not right now. I want to finish the tandem set first. The main reason I pulled this out is I like to think ahead. I want to know what I've got in store and what I might need to order, and I was really curious to find out why did this set stop working. It was sort of like the power transformer had burned out, then that would be a little bit more serious issue. Now that I know that everything is still more or less fine, probably just, needs a little bit basic recap, a few new resistors, maybe replace some of these networks, and then it'll be much more reliable. So we'll start making up my parts list and start planning for working on this. In the meantime, I am going to get back to the tandem set. Oh, and I still have that one last Bug Eyes set, which I have also been working on, and I'll be looking for a video on that within the next day or two, and hopefully all the bug eyes will be done very soon and I can get my attention fully back to the Predictas. Hope you enjoyed this video on the Predicta Siesta model. That is all for tonight.